The Story of Chocolate by C.J. Polin. Chocolate trees. Do you like chocolate? Most people would answer yes. We eat an average of 11 pounds, 5 kilograms, of chocolate per person per year. That's about 100 chocolate bars each. But where does chocolate come from? And how is it made into the sweet, delicious treats that we love to eat? Page 5. The story of chocolate begins in the rainforest, where cacao trees grow. Cocoa pods grow on the cacao trees, and inside the pods are seeds called cocoa beans. These cocoa beans are the magic ingredient in chocolate. Theobroma Cacao. In 1753, Swedish scientist Linnaeus gave the cacao tree its scientific name, Theobroma Cacao, meaning food of the gods. It was well known that he liked chocolate. Page 6. Cacao trees grow in the hot, damp shade beneath the leafy canopy of the taller trees in the rainforest. There, the cacao trees blossom with pink and white flowers. Unlike on other trees, these flowers grow directly from the trunk and main branches. Tiny insects called gnats carry pollen between the blossoms, fertilizing them so cocoa pods will grow. Page 7. Only a fraction of the hundreds of blossoms develop into cocoa pods. Like the blossoms, the pods grow directly from the trunk and branches of the tree. Many cacao trees grow both blossoms and pods all year round. After about 4 months, the cocoa pods grow to the size of melons. It takes another month before they are fully ripe. The color of the ripe pods ranges from yellow to dark red, depending on the tree. The pods are hard and must be split open with force to reveal the beans. Each pod contains about 40 cocoa beans surrounded by sticky white pulp. These are the precious beans that make chocolate. Who discovered that these strange-looking beans from these strange-looking trees could be used to make such a delicious treat? Page 10. An ancient treat. Cacao trees grow in the ancient area called Mesoamerica, which includes southern Mexico and Central America. Many experts believe that the first people to crack open a cocoa pod and use the bean were the ancient Olmec people, who lived from about 1200 to 200 BCE. Page 11. The Mayan and Aztec civilizations followed. The Mayans were the first people to plant the beans of wild cacao trees. This was the beginning of cocoa farming. In return for other goods, the Mayans traded cocoa beans to the Aztecs, whose lands were too dry to grow cacao trees. Olmec Monuments. Much of Mesoamerican culture is said to originate from the ancient Olmecs. In southern Mexico, they carved huge stone heads to praise their rulers. Both the Mayans and Aztecs used cocoa beans as money. They also gave beans as special gifts and as offerings to the gods. The land where cacao trees grew was very valuable. Over several centuries, the Aztecs expanded their empire and took over much of this land, including Mayan territories. Page 15. They collected taxes from the people in the form of cocoa beans. The Aztec kings filled storehouses with the precious beans. It is said that the Emperor Montezuma had more than 960 million beans in his storehouses. Army food supplies. Some of Montezuma's cocoa beans were made into wafers for his army. This was an early type of instant cocoa mix. Page 18. Other explorers soon followed Columbus to the New World. In 1519, Spanish explorer Hernando Cortez arrived in Mexico. The Aztec Emperor Montezuma honored Cortez by serving him a feast with chocolatl to drink for dessert. Page 19. But Cortez had come to Mexico to claim the land for Spain, and by 1521 he had conquered the great Aztec nation. The Spanish explorers took on some Aztec customs, such as using cocoa beans as money. The taste of chocolatl was too bitter for them at first. But with the addition of sugar to sweeten the flavor, the exotic drink became a favorite treat. Molinillo. The Spanish explorers used a mixing stick called a molinillo to whip up the thick foam on top of their hot chocolatl. Since cocoa beans were in short supply, the Spanish did not want to share the delights of drinking chocolate. It took nearly 100 years for the secret to spread to other parts of Europe. There is a legend that English pirates captured a Spanish ship carrying cocoa beans. The pirates thought that the beans were sheep droppings, and they burned them. Page 23. However, by the 1650s, Europeans were drinking chocolate at fashionable cafes called chocolate houses. In 1660, Princess Maria Theresa of Spain married King Louis XIV of France. Maria Theresa liked chocolate so much that she had a special maid to make it for her. Soon, the French nobles began copying their new queen and developed a taste for the drink. chocolate pot. Tea from Asia and coffee from Africa were also popular in Europe at this time. Special pitchers, such as this chocolate pot, were used to serve each drink. Page 24. By the 1700s, European settlers had brought the chocolate drink back across the Atlantic Ocean, where it became a popular treat in the colonies of North America. In 1765, the first chocolate factory opened in Massachusetts. Page 25. John Hannon had run a chocolate business in Ireland. While looking for work after arriving in America, he met Dr. James Baker, who suggested going into business together. Their new chocolate factory had a water wheel that powered a machine which ground the cocoa beans into a fine powder. Until then, most cocoa powder had been handmade. Page 26. Chocolate factories. In 1765, Scottish inventor James Watt built a steam engine that made goods quickly and cheaply. Using a steam-powered chocolate grinder made chocolate a cheaper treat for everyone. Page 27. In 1828, Dutch chemist Coenraad van Houten invented a chocolate press that made the chocolate taste better too. Cocoa beans are made up of the meat of the bean, called cocoa mass, and fatty cocoa butter. Cocoa butter gave chocolate a greasy texture and didn't mix well with water. The chocolate press separated out much of the cocoa butter. The result was chocolate that had a purer flavor and mixed easily with water. The Age of Steam. Watt's steam engine led to the development of new machines, including the steam-powered fire pumper. It started the Industrial Revolution. Page 28. In the 1840s, Fry's Chocolate Company in England made the first solid chocolate for eating when they mixed cocoa powder and sugar with melted cocoa butter instead of water. The new mixture was poured into a mold and then cooled so the chocolate would harden. The chocolate business boomed. Many different kinds of chocolate for eating were molded into bars and other shapes. Some were even filled with flavored centers. Chocolate was now cheaper for everyone and sold to people of all ages. Cadbury's, another English company, made boxes of different chocolates that were decorated with pictures, which children could cut out and keep. Chocolate was thought to be a healthy and delicious treat. New towns. In England, Cadbury's and Rowntree's chocolate companies were run by Quaker families who took good care of their workers and built new towns for them. Page 30. Until 1875, All chocolate had been what we now call plain or dark chocolate. It was also coarse and gritty. Then, two separate developments happened in Switzerland. Henry Nestle was experimenting with condensed milk for breakfast cereals when his partner, Daniel Peter, suggested adding condensed milk to chocolate. By doing this, they invented milk chocolate. Page 31. 4 years later, Rudolf Lindt invented the conch, a machine with rollers that moved back and forth over the chocolate. The movement created friction and heat that broke down even the tiniest crumbs. The result was chocolate with a smooth, velvety texture. Page 32. In the United States, Milton Hershey opened his chocolate factory in 1905. Hershey built his factory in the dairy region of Pennsylvania, where he could easily get a large supply of milk. Using the latest technology, he mass-produced milk chocolate candies. One of his early successes was Hershey's milk chocolate with almonds, which is still a bestseller. Page 33. Hershey built a large modern town for his workers, with a hotel for visitors, a golf course, and other recreational facilities. Over the years, tourism has increased, and the site has expanded into an amusement park. The town of Hershey has streets called Cocoa Avenue and Chocolate Avenue, and street lamps shaped like Hershey's Kisses, one of the company's most popular products. Page 34. Making chocolate today. The average cacao tree only produces about 2 pounds, or 1 kilogram, of dried cocoa beans. More and more land is being taken over by cacao tree growers to meet the huge demand for chocolate. Cacao trees now grow on plantations in many tropical rainforests within 20 degrees of the equator. They need a hot, wet climate, low altitude, and lots of gnats to pollinate the blossoms. Cacao trees are usually planted among taller trees, such as banana or coconut trees, which give them the shade they need. After about 4 years, pods begin growing on a young cacao tree. Organic chocolate. On some farms, pesticides are not used, and cacao trees are grown with native plants, which helps the environment. This chocolate is labeled as organic. Page 36. Despite the progress in making chocolate, cocoa farming must still be done by hand, as it was by the Mayans and Aztecs. Workers use knives to cut the ripe pods off the trees, being careful not to damage the bark. Then they split the pods open with wooden mallets and remove the cocoa beans and the sticky white pulp. Fair trade. Chocolate that is labeled fair trade guarantees farmers a fair price for their cocoa beans. The label differs between countries, but the message is the same. Page 37. The beans and the pulp are heaped into big piles to ferment, a natural process that helps bring out the flavor. After fermenting for about a week, the beans are dried in the sun and shipped to the chocolate factories. Page 38. At the factory, the beans are cleaned and then roasted at a very high temperature to bring out their flavor. A hulling machine then separates the shell from the inside of the bean, which is called the nib. Cooking with cocoa. Cocoa powder is often used as an ingredient in other foods, such as cookies, cake, and ice cream. Only the nib of the bean is used to make chocolate. The nibs are ground into a machine until they turn into a thick paste. This paste is then pressed to separate the fatty cocoa butter from the cocoa mass. To make cocoa powder, the cocoa mass is ground again into a fine powder. For chocolate drink mixes, sugar is added to the powder. Page 40. Dark chocolate is cocoa mass mixed with sugar and some melted cocoa butter. The mixture is ground up and then put into a conch machine, where the rollers make the chocolate smooth. Then it is cooled in a process called tempering to give it the ideal texture. Page 41. To make milk chocolate, milk and sugar are mixed and heated so that much of the liquid evaporates. This condensed milk is mixed with cocoa mass and dried into a crumbly mixture, which is then ground up and mixed with cocoa butter, often diluted with vegetable fat. Once flavorings such as vanilla have been added, the milk chocolate is conched and tempered. White chocolate. White chocolate contains sugar, milk, and cocoa butter, but no cocoa mass. Technically, it is not real chocolate. Page 42. Many chocolate bars are still made in molds, but these days, the molds are usually filled by machines. Some machines can fill more than 1,000 molds in a minute, making the same number of bars. Nuts, caramel, and other ingredients can also be added during the molding process. Then the bars go through a cooling tunnel so the chocolate can harden. Shaped chocolates. Chocolate shapes, such as eggs or rabbits, are also made using molds. For hollow shapes, chocolate is squirted into a mold, which is then shaken to evenly coat the sides. Chocolate is also used as a covering for cookies, ice cream, and cake. The filling is dipped or squirted with chocolate until it is covered. This process is called enrobing. Page 44. The next time you buy a chocolate bar, read the label before making your choice. The purer the chocolate, the better the bar. On most labels, cocoa mass and cocoa butter are measured together and called cocoa solids. The percentage of cocoa solids in chocolate varies from about 15 to 75%. Dark chocolate usually contains more cocoa solids than milk chocolate. Modern chocolate has a bad reputation when it comes to nutrition. However, many experts now agree that cocoa solids may be good for you, and that it is the sugar and other added ingredients that are fattening and unhealthy. It depends what kind of chocolate and how much of it you eat. Soldiers' rations. During World War II, much of the chocolate produced in the United States was given to the soldiers for nourishment and strength as part of their daily rations. Page 46. All kinds of chocolate. Today, there are many different kinds of chocolate treats. Bars, cookies, cake, ice cream, and many others. In Mexico, where the cacao tree was first discovered, a popular dish is a chocolate chili sauce called mole poblano. It is made with plain chocolate and often eaten with chicken or turkey. Page 47. Some chocolate creations are truly enormous. One record-breaking treat weighed 15,400 pounds, or 7,000 kilograms, as much as 140,000 chocolate bars. But like all chocolate, it began with a pod full of beans. A sweet reed. Roald Dahl was inspired by his childhood experiences as a taste tester in a candy factory when writing his book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The end.